Hey there, Griff Hamlin here. Welcome and thanks for joining me today. In this video, what I want to show you is a more practical application of the Blues Speed Building Blocks course. And I kind of want to do this because, as pretty much with everything I make, it's in response to a problem or a need that I see in the community. So in this case, a lot of people have been working on, for example, solos out of Blues Guitar Unleashed, either the version 1 or the version 2. They're identical where the solos are concerned, and so a lot of people work on them and struggle with the counting. And I hear a lot about, I just don't know how to count this stuff, or I have a hard time counting and playing simultaneously. I have a hard time breaking the things down. And of course, they're broken down in the videos, and you can certainly, print out the manual and count along with it. But the Blues Speed building blocks will make that a lot easier for you. And also, as you'll see, it'll kind of give you a better heads up as to how hard is this really. Like this thing I'm looking at in front of me, if it seems really hard, should it seem really hard? Or if I think it should be easy, should it be easy? Because it's important to know things like that. We often talk about learning things like Hendrix recordings, and I always talk about the fact that they're really hard because they're out of time. And when you do something like Blues Speed building blocks, you see that, wow, the time really makes a difference, and the counting really makes a difference. So things that are played, purposely kind of out of time, a lot of Johnny Winter stuff, a lot of Hendrix stuff, some of the what I call the Clapton flurry stuff. Over a slow blues, they just throw down a lot of notes and then kind of wait for the band to catch up. So anyway, long story short, we're going to kind of go through this today, and I want to show you how you can start to notice some of the things from the Blues Speed building blocks in, as the example I'm going to use today, BGU. Okay, so let's say that we're on solo 3. Solos 1 and 2 are not too tough for most people. They're a straight feel. They're by and large just eighth notes. So those are not situations where a lot of people run into trouble. But starting with solo 3, we start to run into some triplets. And you'll see here lick 2 is a perfect example of that. We're coming, trucking through with some pull-offs and some bends and some triplets and all this different kinds of stuff. And that lick might seem really hard on its face, but if I show you how it breaks down, I think you'll see that it's actually fairly straightforward. So if we go through the Blues Speed building blocks, and I'm going to jump over here to the very first group of examples. So the very second example, notice that this comes from box 1, just like these 4 notes come from box 1, right? And it's that index finger, pull off, bend. Well, there's index finger, pull off, bend. It's the exact same move, okay? So if this gets comfortable, this is going to get comfortable. And they're going to feel the same, okay? The next thing is if you go down here and you're doing example 6, the bend and then the finger roll. Well, there's the bend and the finger roll. It's the exact same move. Again, that's why I call them building blocks, is because these same moves happen time and again. And by the way, here it is again right down here, the bend and the finger roll. And I didn't put a pull-off in there, but you certainly could. And then this is exactly the same as that. And that's not on accident. That's kind of how these things work out. And then if we go, here to example 7, right, that's the finger roll plus the pinky and the index finger on the top of box 1. And sure enough, there's the finger roll and the pinky to the index finger on the top of box 1, right? Following up with, I believe it is, yeah, well, and in fact here, this lick here is exactly the same as this one. Okay, so example 9, which of course is put together from those previous ones that I showed you, is exactly the same as box 2, just in a different key. But it's exactly the same thing. And from there, this one goes to this bend up and release thing, which is of course what we do here on example 3. There's the bend and release and pull off. So this is all built from building blocks, every last bit of it, okay? And you can notice that lick 3 here starts the same, but then just leaves out some of the stuff in the middle. Okay, so when you look at this as building blocks, same first building block, same second building block, leaves out the third building block that this one uses and jumps right to the fourth building block. And there it is. Okay, so once you've learned this one, this should be a slam dunk if you're looking at it in those terms. Okay, and this is a big part of what we talk about is being able to kind of see these little building blocks and put them to use. And of course, here's another example down here. You can see it again. This is almost that exact same lick. They'll all sound a little different. They're used over different chords. They're used on different beats. They're used in slightly different situations. And so they don't sound exactly the same. And you might not recognize that they're exactly the same. Hopefully you won't. As you play them and you listen to them, hopefully they don't sound the same. They might sound similar, but this one's happening over the 1 to the 4 chord. This one's happening over the 4 to the 1. This one's happening over the 5. So they're gonna function a little bit differently because of that. And that's of course where more theory and that sort of stuff and the stuff in BGU comes into play that we don't have. This is Blue Speed Building Blocks is all about playing faster. So you can see that just on this page alone, and of course we have some stuff here where we're going up from box 1 into box 2 in lick number 4, and we jump into all of that. I didn't actually make a note of that one, but I know it happens in the group 2 examples. We start to do some of jumping up into box 2, and later on, actually in the group 3 examples, we really jump up and do a lot of that getting from box 1 to box 2 thing. And I know it's coming up here in a second. There it is. So example 2, going from, there's that on the 3rd string, going from box 1 to box 2 and then going up to the top. And sure enough, this one does a bend at the top, or a bend and release, but that's no different from a bend up. I mean, it's functionally the same. Okay. So you can see that these building blocks, really show up a lot. Let's go down here though. The one that really gives a lot of people trouble is solo example 4 in Blues Guitar Unleashed. And when you think about the fact that, as I mentioned, it's hard to tackle things when timing is so loose. And timing becomes loose in a slow blues because it can. As I said, like Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Winter, Eric Clapton, all these guys, they play really out of time in a slow blues. You can get really, really loosey-goosey with the time. And that makes it very hard. And so you look here and you start to look through this and you're like, wow, I see just kind of a lot of messy things, right? 5 notes in the span of a beat. Okay, well, when you see messy notation like that, that tells you this is pretty loosey-goosey with the time. This is going to be a challenge. This is going to require me to listen to this a lot and to really get it in my ear before I can truly start to play it. Okay? And that's going to be vital, a vital, important thing. And if you've been with me for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about the old days when we used to only get a new album once a month or once every 2 months or every 6 months. And so, we had a tendency to listen to stuff a lot more and really get it in our ear before we actually tried to learn how to play it. We'd been listening to that recording so much that it was almost like we could just play it back in our mind. And that's an important thing, that's why you have the audio files with this stuff. You've got to listen to this stuff. Even just driving around in your car, you've got to get these things in your ear. And especially when you see a lot of messy things. This is not hard to play. It's just box 2 of the blues scale. It's not difficult to play, and you'll be able to finger the notes, no problem. But you won't be able to time it. You won't be able to count it. I can't count, 5 notes in one beat, and I doubt you could either. So you just kind of have to play this along with me. And this is even not super accurate. You know, it's as accurate as I can make it, but it's not terribly accurate. But this is the kind of thing that goes on in a slow blues, and I wanted to be authentic with you. So I gave you something that is challenging, okay? And that's the way it is. But as you get down, you know, to some of these lower things, a little bit later on, like in the second chorus, we do have, you know, notice the groups of 6. Boo-doo-da-da-da-da, you know, so you have these groups of 6, which get back to, you know, or stuff like this in lick number 18, okay? You know, this is, what is it, example 3, I think. Yeah, here you go. You know, so here's all these sort of descending hammer-ons in triplets, okay? So this is in triplets, these aren't triplets. Now it's in 12/8 time, so it's a subtle difference, but this is still 6, you can see because of the beams, there's 6 notes in this one beat. Okay, well, where do we talk about having 6 notes in one beat? Group 4. So if you're not playing if you're not at a point in your life, in your guitar playing yet, where you're playing some of the group 4 licks and being able to handle some of these, you know, 6 notes in one beat kind of thing, you might want to put this one off for a little while. And that's what that tells you. And there's no shame in that. It's a good thing to know, right? But it tells you that, hey, this is going to be a challenge. You know, this is going to be a really hard solo to learn. And that's okay. It's a great thing to aspire to. But it means that you probably need to go back over here and spend some more time with this stuff before you jump into solo number 4, okay? And it gives you a way to truly and honestly assess as well your current level of ability, which is almost as important a thing as how to fix that ability, right? So just, you know, just a couple more examples. I'll go down to the 5th solo, right? And you may want to skip solo 4 and go to solo 5. I wouldn't blame you at all. You know, come back to solo 4 at the end. But we have things here like, you know, I'll say lick number 4 right here. And of course you can, a lot of this stuff is fairly simple at the beginning. You know, a little tweedly, which we handled earlier in the blues speed building blocks. But this one right here, this lick number 4, notice that again, you know, it's in G, so there's box 1, and we have this little slide move right here. So, you know, you go, I know that was in blues speed building blocks, and you're right. It's over here. I think it's example 4. Yeah, sure enough. There it is. There's that little slide and return on the 3rd string from box 1. Okay, and look at that. We have almost the exact same move right here, just in a different key. Bam, just like that. Okay. Now what's also cool though is that this one does the 3rd finger roll move right here. Now if you try to do this, you might think, wow, that's kind of challenging. But if you've been down to let's see, I believe it's actually quite a ways down. Example 13 in the building blocks, right there. There's that same move. We probably did it earlier than this because obviously this is a longer thing here. But so it's, you know, we kind of took a little bit of group 2 example 4 and mixed it in with group 3 example 13, and now you have this lick. Okay, and here it is right in front of you. And so if you've done that move and you've done that move, this isn't going to take any time at all to put together. It's going to actually be really, really easy. Okay, and then we have, you know, just some standard, you know, 1/8 notes and quarter notes. So none of that's going to be really very hard. But a little bit later on, we get to, you know, something like lick 12 here, right? This is a fairly elaborate lick, and you might think, wow, there's a whole lot going on there. But if we break it down to group 1, example 2, right? Da 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 da, ba da da da, and then, you know, we have the bend and return, which you may remember we looked at just a minute ago. That was example 3 in the group 1 examples. And then of course we have that same, you know, there's that 3rd finger roll idea, which we just talked about was group 3 example 13, right? So I won't get carried away on that. But then notice we have the climb out into box 2, right? Which was group 2 example 1. There's our climb out. Of course, we only hit that note a couple of times Here we hit it a little more, but that doesn't change how it works. You know, all of this here is exactly the same finger movement and the same type of counting that this is. So if you can do it here, I guarantee you're going to have no trouble doing it there. And, you know, of course, I could go on and on and on, and there's going to be, you know, literally probably dozens of examples of this. You could take just about any single example from Blues Speed Building Blocks and find it in one of the BGU solos. They're going to be everywhere. That's where all, you know, all of this stuff comes from the same source. So if you have the Blues Speed Building Blocks, you probably have Blues Guitar Unleashed also. And you know, now, what I'm hoping is that you can use the stuff in the Blues Speed Building Blocks to make those solos in Blues Guitar Unleashed that much easier to learn, that much faster to assimilate into your own playing. And that's truly the purpose of something like the Blues Speed Building Blocks. You know, good technique and speed and dexterity never goes to waste. So you can never go wrong improving your skills. Yeah, I'm sure that's obvious to most of us. So this here I wanted to give you a direct correlation so that you can see this stuff is not stuff I made up. This is stuff that really does exist in the real world. You know, we have, if you have the All Access Pass or you have the solos from the Masters, you'll also find, you know, those are solos that I transcribed. You know, I took those from Johnny Winter and Joe Bonamassa and, you know, Peter Green and all those different people. Those are real solos, and these same building blocks will be there as well. So if you, of course, if you don't have the Blues Speed Building Blocks, you may want to jump on that, or perhaps jump on the All Access Pass now we have available, and have all of it available to you. But if you, but mainly I wanted to make this for those of you that have access to both the Blues Speed Building Blocks and the BGU. You know, take this stuff. When you've learned these moves, think back to solos that you've tried to play, and think back to, you know, the fact that these moves might be there, and see if you can find them. And when you find them, try to play those solos, and they should be considerably easier for you. Okay, so thanks for joining me today, and I will post this up for you, and I will talk to you soon.